President Trump is traveling to Iowa today for the first time since being sworn in as president. He will attend an event on agriculture technology. It's part of the administration's Tech Week. Then later tonight, he'll hold a rally under his campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again." That'll be in Cedar Rapids. Political columnist for the Des Moines Register, Kathie Orbadovich, joins us now by phone from Des Moines, Iowa. Kathie, can you tell us, the president we know spent a lot of time in Iowa during the campaign. Is there any special reason why he's coming back now?
Well, I think that Iowa is a place where he is sure to get a warm welcome. Donald Trump continues to have the support of top Republican leaders in the state who have been really unwavering despite all the sort of early problems he's had in his presidency. The other thing is that Iowa is a key state when it comes to presidential politics. We've already started to see top national Republicans nosing around here in Iowa, but, possibly for a future run for president. So, I think that Donald Trump needs to keep his marker down in Iowa, and that this is also a good place to make a pitch to the rest of the country, because a lot of times when national politicians come to Iowa, the national media comes along.
Well, Kathie, tell me more about these top Republicans who are dipping their toes into Iowa. What are you hearing?
Well, for example, Tom Cotton, who is a U.S. Senator, has spent a lot of time in Iowa. He has done some top Republican events. He met with the Iowa Republican delegation during the Republican National Convention last year. He is clearly working to get his name out there as a possibly potential future presidential candidate. We don't know if we're talking about 2020 or 2024, obviously. And even Vice President Mike Pence, he was the headliner for our Iowa Senator Joni Ernst's summer fundraiser a couple of weeks ago. He rode his Harley, definitely campaign mode here. And that will only pick up more as we head closer and finally get into the midterm campaigns.
What do you expect the president will say tonight in this rally? We know he loves these campaign-style rallies.
He is impossible to predict. Sometimes he has a script, but more likely it's a freewheeling discussion. He goes where the mood takes him. I mean, I would be really surprised if he didn't try to build up support for the Republican health care plan, which I think is front and center in Washington right now. But there's a lot of other things he could talk about here. He's focusing on ag and tech earlier in the day. One of the things that is really important in Iowa is the renewable fuel industry. One of the things I wrote leading up to this event here is that he has some work to do in reassuring Iowans that renewable fuel is still going to be important in his administration, especially after he ditched an earlier appearance in Iowa to have an event pulling out of the Paris Accords for climate change. He was actually supposed to be in Iowa that day, and instead he was in the Rose Garden saying how that trying to reduce greenhouse gases was going to cost America a ton of jobs. Well, in Iowa, there are a ton of jobs related to wind energy and related to renewable fuels.
So how are folks in Iowa taking that message? And you talk about the renewable fuel industry there, the switch on climate change. How does that impact Iowans?
Well, I think that people are waiting to see. I mean, one of the things that I think we've learned after long experience with Donald Trump is that you look for the actions. One of the things that he has done is he has maintained what we call the Renewable Fuel Standard, which is a pro-ethanol, corn-based fuel standard, even though his top cabinet directors in energy over energy policy are pretty hostile toward renewable energy. They come from oil states. So you look for what he does, not necessarily what he says. The other thing is here in Iowa, people are watching with some trepidation as he pushes through his trade policies. This is an agriculture state. Ag exports are extremely important. It probably will cost Iowa a lot of money that he pulled out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which would have opened a lot of markets for example, Iowa pork. So any word he says about trade, here in Iowa will be followed very, very closely.
Kathie, with all this controversy of the Russia investigation, President Trump's approval ratings hovering at 36%. It's a new low for him. How do folks in Middle America feel? Those who voted for him, are they still behind him in large numbers?
I think that he has a core of very, very loyal supporters who are actually, I think, literally paying no attention at all to. In fact, I think that they're tailoring their news media viewership so that they don't really hear much about that. But I think here in Iowa, the group that we watch most closely are independent swing voters. When we polled, Des Moines Register polled in February, his approval rating was particularly underwater with independent voters. Independent voters are liking Obamacare more and more as Obamacare is becoming more and more endangered. And so those are the people that we have to watch. And I think that those are the people that he really needs to, for example, offer a clear message about health care. And if he wants to keep the parts of the Obamacare law that independents like covering pre-existing conditions, keeping young adults on their parents' policies, then he needs to say so.
You talk about health care. We know the Senate's trying to push through a health care bill. How do Iowans feel about that?
I don't think Iowans know for sure how to feel about that. I mean, it's being crafted in secret. I don't think anybody really knows what the Senate's going to come out with right now. We do know, however, that the House version of the bill raised a lot of concerns among older Iowans. It was going to raise older Iowans' premiums more than for younger people. This is an old state. The demographics here skew above 65, and so or 60 to 65 people who maybe aren't qualified for Medicare yet, but are worried about their premiums. So I do think that is something that people are watching closely here. Plus, Iowa has a real problem. There's only one insurer left in the Obamacare exchanges, and that insurer just announced this week they want to raise their premiums by 43%.
I want to ask you before you go about Governor Terry Branstad. It's going to be a bit of a send-off today for him. He's heading to China to be the new U.S. ambassador. What do you make of that?
Yeah, Governor Branstad is the longest-serving governor in the history of the country. He is much beloved in Iowa, although not universally loved. Obviously, some of his policies. Well, right now there's like 8 Democrats running for governor, so there's certainly. Beyond the partisanship, though, he is well liked. People are applauding the fact that he has been named ambassador to China. Everybody wishes him well, I think, and also fully expect that he will continue to sell Iowa, even as he sells American policy in China.
You don't think of Iowa and China, but he has ties to President Xi, doesn't he?
He does. He's an old friend of President Xi Jinping. The president of China has visited Iowa both in the 80s and more recently. And also, Iowa has a lot of other ties. Iowa has a sister state in China. There is trade with China from Iowa. So I think he is in a position to build on those relationships.
Right. Governor Terry Branstad, one to watch, as well as political columnist for the Des Moines Register. Always fun to read your stuff, Kathie Orbadovich. Thank you for joining us, Kathie.
Thank you.